It's the realist.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's your guy Realistic, and welcome to my tutorial vault. Some of my most classic tutorials over the years out of the vault and re-releasing them. That way y'all can enjoy, get your mixing and mastering skills back up. So if you find any of the information useful, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. That way this keeps showing up in your feed, and sit back and enjoy the content.
In this video, we'll talk about automating our delays. I think you can get a lot better mix if you automate your delays. It can definitely reduce muddiness and clashing a lot more. Now, we did touch on this when it came to our delay chapter, but I'm going to touch on a few of the subjects again, and I'm also going to go further more into detail and show you some other areas that we may want to automate a little bit here, right? And so when it comes to let's create an automation lane here for our delay here. Okay, and you see I already have some areas automated. So let me go ahead and hit play, and you can kind of watch what's happening here. I'll hit solo.
Things seem smarter in my head. Green hat looking like a Sprite can. On God's path with a bike, yeah.
Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm just automating the end of the phrases where there's a little bit of a pause, right? And so let's go ahead and delete all of this, right? So there's no automation going on, and I'll kind of show you why I like to do that. Let's say here we just don't automate at all, and we have the delay going on the entire time.
Things seem smarter in my head. Green hat looking like a Sprite can. On God's path with a bike, yeah. Always got dirt on my white Vans.
Okay, so that can create a little too much chaos sometimes. I mean, sometimes that effect works where everything is echoing, but a lot of times it can be a little too much and cause a lot of chaos and muddiness. There's clashiness. There's just so much going on with that vocal. So what I like to do is I like to mute the actual send here of my delay. And then what I like to do is I just like to automate it to where I'm just bringing it in on the end of each phrase here, right? And so we'll go ahead and just put those in here, right? Because there's a little bit of room to be able to do that. All right, and now we'll just go ahead and we'll give this a listen. We'll see that this is going to give a little bit more room and space.
Things seem smarter in my head. Green hat looking like a Sprite can. On God's path with a bike, yeah. Always.
And so now you can hear that it's not echoing or delaying this area here. It's only echoing and delaying this area. So you can see too, I'm automating the amount of space, the same amount here, right, that I have as an opening, right? And so you see that I have the same opening that I'm automating. So it kind of allows that room to open up. And so that's why I recommend automating your delay sends, right? And just that way they're not going on the entire time. Another thing that I recommend here is to automate the feedback, right? You know, like spots like this right here, you know, we're probably going to want a little bit lower of a feedback so it doesn't like go into it too much. But spots where we might have a little bit more of an opening here, we might want to have a little bit more of a feedback. So let's go ahead. We'll turn this feedback down here. And then what we'll do is we'll automate the feedback. And so I'm actually automating the feedback inside the echo plugin. So we'll have to go to our send fader right here. So I'll turn down the feedback, and then we'll just turn it up here when we got this space. And so what I'll do here is we'll zoom in and we'll increase the feedback a little bit here, since we got a lot more space. And then what I like to do is I kind of like to fade into it a little bit, so it's just not like this sudden little, you know, like jump up here. You know, I like to kind of fade into it a little bit. So let's go ahead and give this a listen now so we can hear that we got a shorter feedback. And if we remember from our delay chapter, the feedback is how many times it repeats. When we're just down to 0 or 1 right here, it's just going to repeat once. And the more that we increase this, it's going to repeat more times. So down here, it would be echo, right? And then as we increase, it'd be echo, 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 right? So it's just more times that it repeats. All right, so let's go ahead and give this a listen now that we can hear a little automation with our feedback lane.
Things seem smarter in my head. Green hat looking like a Sprite can. On God's path with a bike, yeah. Always got dirt on my white Vans. Girl, I'm off track.
So you can see what I'm doing here is I'm kind of, you know, you got to use your ears and kind of pay attention to what it's doing here. But what I'm doing is pay attention here that the repeats, I got it set to where the repeats are pretty much going to stop when the next round of vocals comes in.
My head, green hat looking like a Sprite can. On God.
See how they kind of stop right when that next vocal is going to come in? And then I had a little bit more space here, and I did the same thing where I automated it up. So now it's going to stop pretty much where the next vocals come in, but I had to automate it up because I got a little bit more room here.
Third on my white Vans. Girl, I'm off track. Had to let.
Right, and then something else I'll do too here is we'll go to the chorus vocals, right, because the chorus vocals end the song. What I'll do here is a lot of times for the last echo of the song, I'll kind of ramp up the feedback a little bit. So let me go ahead and hit play.
You sleep better in my bed.
So for most of the vocal here, I have a short feedback here so it doesn't overlap with the other vocals.
My bed. You sleep better in my bed. You sleep better in my bed.
But what I might want to do here is I might want to automate this last vocal, because let me hit play here and then you can hear how the song is going to start to fade out to the end.
You sleep better in my bed.
So we're pretty much at the end of the song here. So sometimes what I'll do is we'll automate the last feedback here and just kind of really ramp that up so we have more repeats going on. And what I'd like to do is I like to kind of fade into that just a little bit here so it kind of slowly, gradually ramps up a little bit there. And then we'll go ahead and hit play.
My bed. You sleep better in my bed.
So you see how we're getting more repeats and it kind of fades out a little bit more. Kind of, it's the end of the song, so it can kind of help with that. That's to taste, though. Maybe you just want to end the song where it's just one repeat or whatever. So totally ignore this if that's not your style. But, it's just something to think about of automating the feedback. That way you can have more or less in certain parts. And something else that I like to do here is I like to automate the volume of the delays a little bit here. And I actually like to do that on the actual volume channel here. And the reason why I'll choose to actually do this on the actual aux track here versus doing the send fader, if I want to turn up the overall volume, it's a little bit easier to do it with this send knob. And so I like to automate this instead here. Okay, and so what we'll do here is we'll turn the volume up here on just this part, because there might be some parts where we want the echo to be a little bit more apparent, like maybe this fade out, we want a little bit more of that. So we'll automate the output here of this delay.
My bed. You sleep better in my bed.
Okay, and so that's one option. And another thing of why I like to do that, let's go back to this vocal here, is some vocals might, the delay might sound a little too quiet. And so what I like to do is on those parts, I like to bring those up a little bit. Okay, so when we're listening here, let's listen to these spots over here, right? They kind of blend in and have a good volume of where they're at.
Martyr in my head. Green head looking like a Sprite can.
And so where those are at, we can hear those pretty well. And so this is set to a pretty good volume right here, right? But over here, let's give this a little listen.
North and I got a little accent. Trying to hit your room.
It's not quite as obvious. There's an echo there, and so sometimes it can help just to kind of go in and automate the volume a little bit. I like to get a little bit before and a little bit after here when it comes to automating here, just because we are dealing with something that's echoing and delaying. And so what we can do here is we can ramp up the volume a little bit here, so now we can hear that a little bit better without having to control the overall volume. And now those parts back there that were good, if we were to up this in overall volume, those parts are going to sound too loud. Now what we can do is we can just ramp up the volume a little bit here on certain parts.
Time over north and I got a little accent. Trying to hit your room before Bob.
Right, so now we've blended that in just a little bit better. So those are a couple tips when it comes to automating your delays. I think you can get a lot more out of your delays if you automate them. You'll get a lot less clashing, a lot less muddiness, and just a little bit more of a solid, cohesive sound if you're automating between the volumes and the mute button and the feedback parameters. Just lots of options. And obviously, when it comes to automation, I mean, there's anything that you could, automate, not just those. Those are like the big three that I recommend, but you could automate the filters, you could automate the echo time, which I'll do sometimes. Usually what I'll do though is I have different delays and timing, but if you just want to save on CPU and there's only certain parts where you want it to be a 16th note, you could automate this, so on certain parts you just have a 16th note, and then certain parts you have an 8th note. So again, just a lot of options when it comes to automating for your delays.
Thanks so much for taking the time to watch this tutorial. If you found it useful, be sure to like and subscribe because it does help the channel grow. When you like a video, it tells YouTube that you liked it and maybe other people will like it as well. And also be sure to check out my online mixing and mastering courses, the art of beat mixing, the art of vocal mixing, and the art of mastering, all available now. And if this video was helpful and you're looking for other videos, you can watch a video here, here, and here. All right, until next time, y'all.